Chairs No Waiting, episode number 580. Keith Brown is Colonel Harvey. Two Chairs No Waiting is brought to you each week by the folks over at Weaver's Department Store. Drop by over at Weaver's and check out some of the amazing Mayberry items they have, like Colonel Harvey's Indian Elixir t-shirt. Oh, that's something you gotta have. Colonel Harvey, it's good for what ails you. Adds life, adds vigor. Also, since we're having to wear face masks, get you a Barney Fife face bandana. You can tie that around your face. You can also get a Lawman bandana. Head over to Weaver's Department Store and check it out. Two Chairs No Waiting is also brought to you by donations from listeners just like you. The executive producer of episode number 580 is Patricia Haley. Thank you, Patricia, for supporting the show, and thank you for being here with me. It is always great to be able to spend some time in Mayberry. And tonight is no exception. I'm recording it at night. That's the reason I say that. But it's always fun to just spend time talking about the Andy Griffith Show. Now, this week I had a special treat because there are people who come to Mayberry events dressed up as characters from the Andy Griffith Show. Now, you may have seen them. You may have seen me because I dress up as Floyd the Barber and am a tribute artist and perform as Floyd and walk around on the streets of Mayberry and different places, Mount Airy, North Carolina, up in Indiana, over in Valley Head, Alabama. There's all kinds of different locations. They have tribute artists come and just kind of bring a smile on the faces of people that we run into. And one of the people who does that is the subject of tonight's podcast, Keith Brown. You may have seen him on the streets of Mayberry dressed up as Col Harvey, selling his Indian Elixir. So you might get you one of those t-shirts from Weaver's. But he is at these events, and wow, what a great thing he does. Keith is much more than Colonel Harvey. Let me just tell you that. He's a true fan of the Andy Griffith Show, the people who live there, and the fans who have made Mayberry their hometown. In this episode, we're going to get to visit with him and just hear about his love for the show, trivia, and so much more that he does just to keep the Mayberry spirit alive and well. So we're going to hear that, and then we're going to hear from Randy Turner with This Week in Mayberry History. We're going to be talking about Gunsmoke. It's our part 2 of that. Last week we talked about it as well. And before I get off on that stuff, I wanted to mention to you guys, there's a podcast that I was on recently that I think you would really enjoy. Don't leave my show yet. But I want you to head over to Sean of the South Show, is what it's called, SeanoftheSouthShow.com. And his episode from April 25th, 2020 is called Mayberry, USA. And in that episode, about 18 minutes or so into it, he does an interview with Floyd the Barber, and then later follows it with an interview with me. And it's a lot of fun. Sean is a great Mayberry fan, by the way. There's a lot of bluegrass music you would really enjoy in that, and we're going to have links in our show notes. But I definitely wanted to bring that up and make sure you guys knew about it, because Sean is, like I said, he's like us. He's like you and me, huge Mayberry fan, and he deserves for you to dig him. So head over and check that out. A link will be in our show notes for this episode, episode number 580. Check it out. So now let's head over, because I want us to hear from Keith. So we're going to take this to an interview I did with him just days ago, where we were able to do a Zoom interview. Wow, we're learning all kinds of words here with Keith. So let's take it away. Take it away, Keith and Alan. All right, so we're joined with Keith is here with us, Colonel Harvey himself, Keith Brown. Keith, it's good to have you here on the show.
Hey, good to be here.
Hey, how did you get into being Colonel Harvey at the Mayberry events?
Yeah, actually, I have been a fan for a long time, and our group in Georgetown is called the Trivial Trivialities Chapter, and we get together about 3 times a year, and we call it our Supper Club of the Twist. And every summer of the summer meetings, we all came in character. And so we would come as different characters. I went one time as Andy, and the next time I went as Briscoe, and then the last time I went as Colonel Harvey. Well, I think a picture or two got shared with some folks. And Westminster event was the first one that I actually came to an event as Colonel Harvey, and the costume wasn't all that, and just sort of thrown together. But Chris Butts, who had helped with putting that together along with Tom Rusk up there, Chris said, I want you to come and judge the Ant Bee and the Opie lookalike contest. And what I want you to do is do it. I said, okay, well, I'll do that. I threw some stuff together and came up and did I think it was a Friday, might have been a Thursday night, but anyway, we did that little contest. And it was funny because I was coming down off the stage and there were a bunch of people standing there. And I said, oh, I'm sorry, excuse me. And I slid over to the side to go around them, and the whole line moved over with me. And there's like 6 or 8 people. And I said, oh, I'm sorry. And I tried to move around again. And my wife said, I think they want your autograph. And I said, why? I'd never done any of the events. And Tim Pettigrew, first time I met him there, he said, don't you have any autograph sheets? I said, no. So I'm signing people's shirts and programs and different things like that. And I happened to be from the Westminster area my first 4 years of teaching in 1979. And so I knew some folks still there, and they actually helped me put together some autograph sheets for the next day. So that was my first time doing that.
Oh, that's great. And I completely understand that. And people that have been tribute artists before, David Browning is the one who kind of started us. The Mayberry deputy started handing out those little flyers.
Yeah.
And then people expected all of us to have them as well. So I remember very well the first time somebody asked me to sign a T-shirt. I was like, are you sure it's going to ruin it?
Yeah. It was funny. My wife got quite a kick out of it.
Oh, that's great. So that was the first time. I didn't realize that, I guess. You've done, so how many years ago was that now about?
2008, 2009, something like that.
Wow. So you've been doing this, and I know you have enjoyed it because I've watched people enjoy watching and seeing you. And if you could, just for everybody, just do your Colonel Harvey spill there.
Oh, let me get a little bit more in character.
So
I'll do that scene you and I were talking about earlier, where after he gets back to Aunt Bee's house and is eating dinner,
okay,
and he comes back into the house.
So for those of you that are just listening to the audio, he's got on his Colonel Harvey hat and the cigar. So picture that.
And he says, Miss B, I have dined in the finest restaurants in New Orleans, and never have I tasted food like that. And she says something to the effect of, oh, now, Colonel, this is just potluck, Tish, dear lady, Tish. There is potluck and there is potluck. Not only the ingredients, but the magic with which it's prepared. And you, my dear lady, have the magical touch. My compliments.
So I know people have enjoyed it so much. I know at almost every event when we do this, and when you're with us, we do the one where you're selling out on the street. Colonel Harvey's selling out on the street, and we have Otis there. I'll take 2 or whatever, and I think it is great. You do a great job doing that. So what made you choose that character? Was there a reason that you chose Colonel Harvey?
Well, like I said, we try to come as a different character every time to our little meetings when we dress up during the summer. And I thought, I could do this guy without having to shave my mustache. So I just grow it a little bit longer, and then I twist it up, turn it up on the side like he did, and put a little wax in there so it'll stay up. And I said, well, I'll go this. And I started watching the episode, learning the lines, and did the voice, and thought that worked out pretty good. And there wasn't a Colonel Harvey already. There's all kind of Barneys and Gomers and Goobers and Otises and people in the parade and stuff. I said, well, it's not really a Colonel Harvey. I know he was a one and done, but there was a lot of one and dones that made impact. So I thought, well, this will be fun. It's fun in the parades because people are always shouting, what time do the Indians eat? And, and I love to go up to a bunch of the ladies on the side and say, ladies, you're looking well. And I'll ask them, can you play the piano? And they say, well, no. And I tap the bottle and say, a little bit of this you can.
That's great. Because you do always have a bottle of Indian Elixir with you.
Yep.
And for those that can't see us on the video, I actually have on my Colonel Harvey T-shirt and so does Keith. So
Yeah.
we dress for the occasion of this interview. So
That's right.
So now you're a huge fan of the Andy Griffith Show before you ever started doing this, obviously.
Yeah.
So I'm often looking through photos from Mayberry days, years past, and I didn't really know you. I had seen you, but I didn't really know you. And I'll see you in these pictures. And I go, hey, there's Keith. There he is. So,
1995, I think, was our first trip up. And then 1997, we brought our whole Trivial Trivialities group and stayed in Mount Pilot at Flippin's Bed and Breakfast over there. We took up the whole place. And that's the year that I brought the sign that said, Mayberry welcomes Gold Truck. And I got a lot of people wanting to take their picture with me and the Mayberry Gold Truck sign. I think George Lindsay was actually he led the parade that year.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, that was TV Land was involved in that year.
Yeah,
I remember that. Wow.
Yeah, I still have a picture in my little album over here of you trimming my dad's sideburns.
Wow.
Coming down off the parade, I got him out and told you he had a sideburn issue, and you trimmed him up for him.
Yeah, I remember one lobe was longer than the other.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
his head was leaning out there.
Wow, that's so neat. So I know during your time doing the Colonel Harvey, have you had any experience that stood out to you, or is anything that's happened to you while you're doing it, a fan reaction or a cast member you got to meet?
Well, we've all in there been able to meet a lot of the cast members, and it's been so much fun to get to do them. And, I'm watching these back in the 70s and 80s, and now I'm good friends with a lot of those folks. And, now if I actually saw them in public, they wouldn't look at me and say, hey, you. I mean, they would know my name as I would, of course, know theirs. But that's been a great experience to be able to meet some folks on the show that were actually characters from the show.
Yeah, I've enjoyed meeting them and the fans too, because there's so many fans. As you said, people were waiting on you that very first day when you walked off the stage. They were waiting down there wanting to get an autograph.
Yeah. It's fun, like I said, going up and down the parade route and people are hollering different lines, or they throw you that bone and you have to react to them, and that's always fun. I look forward to those little challenges of those folks, and the fans are just so much fun. Whether they're trying to get an autograph or not, they're just fun to interact with, and it's just a great crowd.
Well, and part of that's because we're fans too, right? And I know for me, I remember going to Mayberry Days and going to events and seeing people dressed in a character or something, and just how much I enjoyed that.
Yeah. And
hopefully, everybody still gets that feeling when they see either Floyd or Colonel Harvey, that they get that feeling of, I don't know, it's just a little bit of making Mayberry come to life for just a minute.
Yeah, absolutely. The first, when we were there, I said to our group, I said, now we have got to hurry because the trivia contest is Friday afternoon, and I want to be there for that. I said, I'm thinking, I'm going to do some trivia. And I think they had 25 questions, and it was you and Otis, Barney, and Phil Lee was Ernest T. So David Browning and Kenneth Junkin were up there. It's just the four of you guys. That was the only tributes, I think, there. And they had 25 questions, and man, I got like 6 of them. Well, I don't know anything.
Oh, that was the old days.
Yeah,
that was when we were still doing it over by the Playhouse.
Yeah,
we used to do it there on the little hill before the museum was there.
That's right. That's right.
Wow. So I know some of the people that are be listening to this or watching it, we're probably talking about things they've never seen, but this is all at Mayberry Days. At Mayberry Days is a special time where the town of Mount Airy, Andy Griffith's hometown, really becomes the town of Mayberry for a weekend. And Westminster, they had that event for, I don't remember now,
5 or 6 years.
And it kind of eventually faded away. And we have the event in Indiana that we've done. Now, but one of the other things Keith is very involved in that you guys need to know is the Mayberry community. Keith has been a driver over there for a long time. Now that's an online thing. So if you're online, let's say you don't like Facebook because you just don't trust it. The iMayberry community at imayberrycommunity.com is, I mean, I started it, but Keith is really the one who kind of keeps everything going over there. And tell us a little bit about that, Keith.
Well, that community is so much fun because different folks will go into the forum or to the discussion, and they'll pose different questions or different things. Like some of the topics that I've started were, who said that? And then I'll put a line, and then who said that? And then people respond to who said it. And I don't give any clues, just throw the lines out there. Or have you ever noticed and seen some things that we all notice all the time? And it's funny, Alan, because on Facebook, sometimes I'll put train noticer alert, because that's something that Barney would say. He was a train noticer. And I say train noticer alert, and I would put that out there. And it's fun to find that stuff, knowing that, that the continuity wasn't what it would be in today's episodes. But sometimes people on Facebook, they say, well, just enjoy the show. Can you not just enjoy I am enjoying it. I'm just having fun.
Right. Yeah. Because we're not picking it apart, because we love the show, but we do realize it was a television show. It's an amazing show. Okay. Now
that just sort of hurt my feelings there.
But we do know that. And there are some mistakes. There's times when Barney's badge appears and then it disappears and it comes back on his shirt. We know those things. And for those of us, like almost anybody that would be listening or watching this podcast, I think we hopefully enjoy finding little nuances like that we've never noticed before.
Yeah.
It just makes the show a little more special, because you go, hey, there's a little tidbit I'd never seen before. Even if it's a little continuity error, it does not take away from the show or the amazing actors or writers.
It might even give you a little heads up on some of the trivia that goes down at Mayberry Days, because that's some tough stuff.
Oh, yeah. Mayberry Days Trivia Contest is the Super Bowl of all Mayberry trivia.
Yeah.
I mean, it is unbelievably hard. And we've done episodes here on the podcast with those questions. And like you, getting 6 or 7 correct out of those questions is really very good.
Yeah.
Keith has been doing some online trivia during this time here. It's 2020. We've been having this COVID-19 virus, and Keith has been keeping us all in the Mayberry spirit by having presented some really nice trivia contests.
It's trivia on quarantine duty. So, there's right now, I think there are 6 or 7 levels, 6 levels. And it started out easy, and they got a little bit more, and they got a little tougher on the 3rd level. And then I started changing it around. So level 4 and level 5 became concentrated on characters that were all just a one and done on the show. And then the next level was all the criminals that were on the show. So different stuff. And this last one that has not yet come out, all the tribute artists have sent me a couple of trivia questions each. And I'm putting all that together, and it's going to be called the Tributes Challenge. There'll be 25, maybe 30 of those. So that'll be a lot of fun to see those questions. Some of them are fairly what we would think would be regular, but some of them are pretty tough.
Yeah, I took one of those. Was it number 3 that was so hard?
3 was tough.
Oh, my goodness. Keith very kindly sent me a certificate saying I had passed, but he definitely graded it on some kind of a tribute artist curve.
It was a tribute artist curve.
Because I've been embarrassed to post it anywhere because I know I did not pass this test. So it was very hard. But then you let me take levels 1 and 2, and I felt pretty good about myself again.
Yeah.
So we really do appreciate you doing that. It's just during any time, really, just things like that, little trivia contest things, it just makes people's spirits lifted. And how many, you had mentioned the other day, I believe, how many people have gone and
I had over 1,000 submissions.
1,000 people, 1,000 submissions of those trivia. So so isn't that, I just think that's really a neat thing you've been doing. And
if you have not done it, you can find it on I Miss Mayberry page, or we can put it on a couple other places. But if you pass it, then you get a certificate emailed to you that's got that particular level. So
it's really neat.
It's fun.
It is very neat because I've gotten the certificates and I'm very proud to have all of them, but the third one, because I'm pretty sure I don't deserve that one. But thank you for it anyway. But it's a lot of fun. So I'll put a link in the show notes to the Facebook page for I Miss Mayberry. That's the name of it, isn't it?
Yes, that's a Facebook page.
That's where you've been posting them mostly.
Right.
So people could go
right.
to.
I'll help with that page as well. Now, Eric Lowry has done very well.
That's our mayor. That's our mayor. The mayor.
Alana Christian McClendon, she's done very well in there. Is on her trivia questions. And Michelle, who does Daphne of the Fun Girls, has done very well.
Yeah, and Christy does Andalana, Charlene's daughter, and the Fun Girl. Yeah, she's Jean Carson. Hello, doll. That girl is Michelle, and so she's done a good job. Now, your name of your chapter is.
Our chapter is Trivialities.
So it's perfect that you're doing the trivia contest.
Yeah.
Obviously.
That's the episode where Bob Rogers comes down and he's been sent down to help. Yeah, he's given an extra deputy. That's right. And Barney says, I ain't got time to stand around here and discuss trivialities. And he storms out because he's upset with Bob.
And my local chapter is Who's Been Messing Up the Bulletin Board. So that's so we kind of have a connection here.
Yeah, which is fun because every time I straighten something up in the house, Angie, my wife, will come in and say, who's been messing up the bulletin board? That was your closet. I just helped you with your closet a little bit.
That's great. So if you're watching the video, you'll see Keith's a big fan. He's got all kinds of Mayberry stuff behind him as well. Tribute artist flyers, Andy Griffith Show photos and autographs.
I got some a vial of water from the actual lake and a rock from the lake, and also have as I showed you the other night, the salt and pepper shakers from season 5. They were Barney's physical. He's trying to gain some weight. I got those.
The actual salt and pepper shakers. He has them in a shadow box.
Yeah.
That he got authenticated from the folks that. Yeah, so that's really a neat thing. So Keith's a big fan, and I guess that's what I'm really wanting to make sure people understand is all of us that do the tribute stuff. We're huge fans of the Andy Griffith Show. People now. We have had to work a little bit on being able to do the characters that we do, obviously, and know more about them than maybe we did when we started. But it is pretty amazing how many of us just already knew everything about the character and then just started dressing up like them because it was I already know everything they say.
Yeah, a lot of times the character that we do sort of matches some of our little alter ego personalities anyway, right?
It really sadly does. As I've said before, people say, how long did it take you to learn to talk like Floyd? And I say, well, it wasn't really all that hard. Now my problem is I do it even when I don't mean to. I still talk like Floyd, especially if I'm wearing a tie.
That's right.
If I'm at work and I have a tie on, I start flipping it around and people laugh at me because they know what I'm doing.
Yeah, it's funny. A lot of the people, when I first started doing Col Harvey, they said, but doesn't he do the elixir, which really is alcohol? I said, yeah. And they think that's funny because I've never had a drop of alcohol in my life. I've never even tasted a drink. So they say, you're peddling alcohol? Said, it's not real, right? Okay. It was funny. One of the second or third time we were at one of the events, I think it was Westminster, a lady came up and wanted me to sign something, and we did, and she wanted to get a picture, and we did that. And she said, on Super Bowl Sunday, I watch y'all all day instead of the Super Bowl. And I thought, we're not real. We're just having fun. So
that's right. Well, that used to, Super Bowl Sunday used to have TBS did an all-day Andy Griffith Show marathon. Now, that's not happening a long time, but Super Bowl Sunday, that was always because I was actually more looking forward to the Mayberry marathon.
I know.
So
take the game and watch the marathon.
That's exactly right. Yeah. So, well, Keith, it is great to have you on the podcast. I've been wanting to do this with the tribute artists, and because of the COVID-19 stuff, the Zoom stuff that has made it a little bit easier to do these video interviews remotely. So that's going to work out really good for me.
Yeah, that's nice. And, it's been fun because of the Zoom. We were able to get together with a lot of the tribute artists a couple of different times and just see each other, because some of our events have been canceled, and we always look forward to getting together and reconnecting and seeing one another. But since we haven't been able to do that physically, we were able to do it on the Zoom, and that was a lot of fun.
Right. It has been. And Keith has been doing that kind of stuff too. So I really do appreciate all that you do for Mayberry and to keep the spirit going. And I am so appreciative that you decided to become Colonel Harvey, because it just added a little bit extra to our Mayberry events, just to have that, have another character that people can be walking down the streets of whatever town we're doing the show in, whether it's Mount Airy or over in Danville, Indiana, and they see Colonel Harvey walking down with his big white hat and his cigar and his Indian Elixir in his hand, and just making people smile and having a good time.
That's what it's all about. Just having fun and hoping we can bring a little bit of that Mayberry spirit, which we could all use a lot more of, right? To those folks, and they bring it to us. You know, we feed off their energy. They bring.
That's right. Well, Keith, I really do appreciate it, and thank you for being here.
It's been great to be here with you all. Hope everything keeps going well for you all. Be safe, everybody out there.
Yeah, thanks. All right. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. That was Keith Brown, Colonel Harvey, and he has been doing those trivia contests, as he mentioned. Now, we'll have a link in the show note for trivia for the quarantine level 6. I have that one in our show notes. It's the oldest level. So you should be able to have some fun. If you want to see all of them, you can go back through and look through the I Miss Mayberry. If you go to Facebook, if you're on there, you can search for I Miss Mayberry, MISS, Miss Mayberry, and you'll be able to find this page or this Facebook group and be able to be a part of it and scroll through their post and find all of his levels. I will tell you, level 3 is extremely hard. And the bad part is they don't tell you what the right answers are. So I still don't know what the right answers. I can't even go back and take it again and feel better about myself. So thank you, Keith, for being here with us. I hope you enjoyed it. Now let's head over and hear from our roaming reporter, Randy Turner, for this week in Mayberry History.
Welcome to This Week in Mayberry History, a report by special correspondent Randy Turner of the Gomer and Cooper Pyle Comic Book Literary Guild of the Mayberry Historical Society.
Last week, we discussed various connections between the Andy Griffith Show and the radio series Gunsmoke, including the radio show's premise being created by Harry Ackerman, who later married Eleanor Donahue, and the series co-starring both Howard McNear and Parley Bear. Gunsmoke was a long-running radio show. After starting in April 1952, it did not end its run until June the 18th, 1961, nearly 9 months after the Andy Griffith Show debuted. So when Howard McNear joined the Mayberry cast in December of 1960, although his first episode aired on January the 2nd, 1961, he actually did double duty, playing Floyd in Mayberry and Doc in Dodge City during roughly the last 6 months of Gunsmoke's radio run. By the time the radio version of Gunsmoke ended, it had aired 480 episodes. Just as Howard McNear's character of Doc Charles Adams changed during the course of the radio series, so did Chester, as played by Parley Bear. When Parley's character was first heard, he didn't have a name, with the scripts just listing him as a townsman. Just as William Conrad had given Doc a full name, as we discussed last week, Conrad realized how important a role Parley could play, and so Chester was born. In rehearsals for an early episode, Parley ad-libbed the last name of Proudfoot, which stuck. 6 years into the series, Chester's middle initial was said to be W. 3 weeks later, an episode revealed the W stood for Wesley, and that all 10 of Chester's siblings had Wesley as the same middle name. Just as the Andy Griffith Show was not always stringent about maintaining flawless continuity, Chester's official position changed at times during the series. Chester was usually described as an assistant to Marshall Dillon, But in a December 1952 episode, Dylan describes Chester as his deputy. But in a 1954 episode, Dylan specifically states that Chester is not his deputy. Regardless, he was always portrayed as Dylan's most trusted friend. Since Howard McNear and Parley Bear co-starred in the radio series, they are the most obvious Mayberry connections, but there are certainly others. For example, Mayberry guest stars Sam Edwards and John Dehner were prolific voice actors with more than 1,000 acting credits each in old-time radio. Sam Edwards appeared in Gunsmoke alone about 100 times. He appeared in Mayberry in early seasons, first as Sam Muggins in Christmas Story, then as Lester Scobie in Andy Forecloses, but was also taping episodes of Gunsmoke all around the filming dates of these two appearances. A little less than 2 years after radio's Gunsmoke ended its 9-year run, John Dehner guest starred as Col Harvey in Aunt Bee's Medicine Man. John appeared in the radio version of Gunsmoke even more often than Sam Edwards, with roughly 225 appearances as various characters. 3 years into the radio version of Gunsmoke, the classic television version debuted in 1955. Likely due to his girth, William Conrad was not cast as the television Marshall Dillon, even though he had played that role in the radio version. That role was first offered to another Mayberry alum, Denver Pyle. Denver not only went on to play Briscoe Darling, his last name was borrowed for the new character of Gomer Pyle when he first appeared in Mayberry. Unfortunately for Denver, John Wayne had an actor named James Arness under contract with a production company he owned, and Wayne convinced CBS to reconsider their casting. The role was then filled by the 6'7" Arness. In the television version, Doc's first name was changed to Galen and was played by Milburn Stone. And Chester's last name was changed to Good and was played with a limp by Dennis Weaver. However, Howard McNear did appear in the television version of Gunsmoke 6 times between 1956 and 1964, playing the recurring character Howard Rudd during his last 3 appearances. Sam Edwards also appeared in Dodge City 8 times as different characters between 1958 and 1974, while John Dehner showed up a dozen times between 1955 and 1968 as different characters. We don't have time to do an exhaustive discussion as could be had, but I would be remiss not to also point out that George Lindsay, Mayberry's favorite goober, also guest starred in TV's Gunsmoke as different characters 6 times between 1963 and 1972. Denver Pyle, the original choice to play Marshall Dillon, appeared 14 times between 1956 and 1973. Ron Howard, Hal Smith, Burt Mustin, Hope Summers, Clint Howard, and others also appeared in both series. Next week, we'll wrap up our discussion of connections between Gunsmoke and the Andy Griffith Show. That's it for this week. As always, thanks for listening. Be well, care about one another, and remember to take Andy's advice and act like somebody.
Hey everybody, thank you so much. I hope you all enjoy it as much as I do. But if you don't want to miss out on anything that Randy's doing online, send him an email at turnersgrade@gmail.com. turnersgrade@gmail.com, and you won't miss out on any of that great stuff he just talked about, and so much more he's doing to keep just everything in Mayberry rolling along. So Randy, thank you so much, and I hope everybody will take advantage of that. Folks, this has been a lot of fun for me. I got to visit with Keith, and that was great fun. It's always a little bit harder, honestly, when I do a podcast that has guests, but it was really easy with Keith, and honestly, Zoom is pretty easy to use. So I'm hopeful that I might be able to do a few more of these type of interviews as time goes along here. I can arrange to talk with some of the other tribute artists, and maybe just some of you guys that are fans like us, where we can talk about the Andy Griffith Show. I think it's fun. It's the problem I've always had is it's very difficult to get people to talk about it with me. When I walk around with my recorder and a microphone and I go up to somebody and try to talk to them, they immediately shut down. It's a little intimidating. So hopefully we'll be able to pull off a few more of these. Maybe I can get Randy Turner even. That'd be kind of fun to have Randy Turner on for an episode. We'll see. All right. That is all I have for you this evening. I hope you've enjoyed yourself. I know I have. It's always fun to visit with you here in Mayberry, and I would love to hear from you. You can give me a call at 888-684-8415, or you can email me at floyd@imayberry.com, or just head over to twochairsnowaiting.com. All that information is there, and you can get in touch with me. Plus, you'll be able to see the show notes for this episode and go play that trivia. So thanks again to my guest, Keith, and thanks to Randy Turner for all he does. And until next time, everybody, have a great Mayberry week, and we'll see you right here on Two Chairs No Way. Good night. See ya.